Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You are listening to episode number 124. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores. And today I have a very special guest with me, Jarrod Haning. You know how when you're going in a corn maze and you're not sure if you should go left or right, but then you step up on a ladder and suddenly the maze is no longer a mystery? Well, that is what Jarrod Haning does for business owners. By teaching them how to think at a higher level, they're able to see the whole picture, and suddenly the obstacles that were blocking their growth no longer exist. Everything he teaches comes down to this one thing. A breakthrough in your business will first happen as a breakthrough in your thinking. He is an award-winning speaker. He's been featured on ABC Nightline, spoken on stages all across the country. He has clients all over the world. He's delivered 4 TEDx talks related to mindset performance, and he's been chosen by TED Global as the featured speaker of the week. He specializes in Nobel Nominated process, which teaches you how to think at higher levels and allows you to access different parts of your brain on demand. As a result of this training, most of his clients go on to double their income by purposely working half as many hours. And he can be found on mindsetperformance.co, also on facebook.com/Haning, and his YouTube channel. And so today, Jarrod is going to be sharing some of his insights on why it's true that the less you work, the more you make. This is something I'd love to know more about. So welcome to the show, Jarrod.
Yes, good to be here. Good to be here.
Good to have you. Good to have you. And I see your book right behind you, The Thinking Patterns of Success.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, very good. Well, before we dive into some of these questions, I've just already enjoyed our chit chat, our pre-show chit chat.
Pre-show.
Yes, but and I was reading our interview package and some very interesting things about you, such as the fact that you are a licensed pilot. You've flown upside down under power lines and landed on a rural street, which is interesting. You have to tell me a little bit more about that. But
many stories there.
I just need to actually share a few of these because, we'll maybe get into one of these stories, but these are so profoundly interesting things. So you're also a licensed home builder, which is uniquely interesting to me right now since we just bought a house and we're getting ready to make some home improvements over the next year or so. And then I just want to know about all these things. You are 2 degrees separation from Kevin Bacon, which is, I think, isn't there a thing about like everybody's about 6 degrees?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
And then you played.
Like you went to high school.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I bet that you went to high school with somebody who was an extra in a film that he did, and that puts you 2 degrees from Kevin Bacon.
Ooh, yeah. I bet you're right. I bet you're right. And yeah, I've met a few people that, like, personally I've met, but then then you're 1 degree separated from Oprah Winfrey, because I met people who so I'm like maybe 1 degree separated from Oprah Winfrey since I've met people who have met Oprah Winfrey. Is that how it works?
Nice.
Yes. A few people. So let's see. You also played 7 different instruments.
Yes. So you play violin.
I played it. Yeah, I probably wouldn't sound the same. Well, it never really did sound that good. If we're being real honest, flute was a little bit more my forte, but I did play the violin for a short period of time.
Yeah, so you could play flute, and then with maybe a little bit of work, you could transition to alto or bass flute. Maybe, a little bit to get used to the finger or the embouchure for a good sound there. And maybe with a little bit, you could probably transition to piccolo. So that's like
four different instruments right
there.
there. Oh my goodness. Yeah. We're all very multi, and I play the voice.
Yes, look at that. 5 instruments, just like that.
And I can, I can play a few things on the piano.
7. Look at this.
Look at that. And, oh my goodness.
And you probably already know this about the violin, but the mandolin is the exact same strings as the violin.
Oh, wow.
So there you go, right there.
I did try to play bass and guitar there for a little while, but I can't really honestly say I can play those instruments. But let's see. Yeah. So you could just go on and on with these things. But but the most interesting one of all, I mean, as incredible as all those things are, with my love of traveling, you know where this is going. You know where to find the cleanest bathroom at every restaurant on every road trip.
Yes.
You need to write more books, by the way.
Yes. There is a secret to this. If I ever catch anybody using this, I'm going to punch you in the nose because I want exclusive rights to this secret. Please do not ruin it for me. Here's the secret. Whenever you're traveling and you gotta go and you pull off at the exit, the worst bathroom is at the gas station. Oh. But right across the street is the hotel. And the lobby bathroom is the best, cleanest bathroom you could possibly have access to.
That's a good tip. That is a great tip. All right, that's a wrap, folks.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So let's dive into the meat of today's podcast. And I really want to start with, so you are a mindset. Would you consider yourself like a mindset coach, a mindset strategist, a mindset person? You help people with their mindset.
I would say mindset physician.
Mindset physician.
When you go to see a life coach, the life coach will say something like, "Oh, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think you should do?" Well, what you think you should do is kind of what has you in the situation to start with.
Oh my goodness.
When you go see a strength coach, they don't say, "What exercise do you think you should do today?" No. The strength coach says, "Do 2 of these, do 3 of those, come back and see me tomorrow." And that's why when you go see a strength coach, bam, you got results just like that. In my work as a mindset coach, it is similar. Now, when you go see the doctor and you say, "Oh, it hurts whenever I touch here," well, they usually say, "Well, quit doing that." But the second thing they say is, how about we just take you down the hallway, get an MRI, and that way we'll know what's going on. Because without that information, I'm just guessing. That's the work I do as a mindset physician. We print up a graph of your thinking patterns. And
so this is literally something that you hook up to the brain and you actually see. No. Okay.
No, you can do this remotely. We can do this remotely. You can go online.
Oh.
And there's a short little assessment. The assessment is unlike any you have ever seen before. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
But the point is, by mapping out the individual's thinking patterns, it's a fingerprint of what's going on in their head. We're able to see exactly where the blind spot is. It's been tripping them up. There's no guesswork. We're able to see exactly where their next breakthrough is. There's no guesswork. And this is why, especially for entrepreneurs, small business owners, they normally go on to double their business revenue by working half as many hours, simply because their mind is now thinking at a higher level. I do need to say, though, 30% of the people that go through that process are in tears because they find it so personally meaningful. If you can imagine, you've been hitting that same obstacle over and over and over. The conversation's not working, the relationship's not working, don't have enough time, don't have enough money. You're doing everything you know to do. Everything makes sense. To have it mapped out, it's like, oh my gosh, why didn't I see that before? And
oh my God, that sounds
it's an emotionally meaningful
amazing.
experience.
That sounds incredible. Is there anybody, I mean, like, I've never heard of this before. The way that you're so, I mean, you're so confident in how precise this is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this doesn't sound like some airy fairy, like, oh, we're going to do this and XYZ, we're going to get you to change some things. I mean, like, this sounds very precision.
It is. It's a scientific measurement of that individual's thinking process.
Wow.
And because of that, we're able to see why they keep recreating the same situations, why they keep hitting the same ceilings and blocks. And we're able to see the fastest way around it. Just simply something their mind hasn't noticed. Now, about the process of getting to the map, though, because you mentioned earlier, is this like a brain thing that glues to your head, or why is it specific, and why is it so certain, and why isn't it general or airy fairy? I hate to use the word assessment. I really do, because a lot of people think of DISC, Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders, Enneagram, that kind of thing. Nothing against those. Those. They're cool. They give great information. It's fun. We go on Facebook and we build communities. I'm an ENTJ or whatever. I'm a rabbit. I'm a tree. No, I'm a rock. We have these cool labels that we call ourselves, which is the other side of the coin, because that also limits what you're capable of now that you've given it a label. Any which way, the thing with those types of assessments, one is they are questionnaire based. And because you're answering question, your subconscious is gaming the system. There's no way around it. Your subconscious is answering based on how it wants to be perceived, or what it feels like you're working towards, or what it feels like the test is trying to find out. So that's the first thing. The problem with that is, if you go to the doctor and the doctor walks in the room with somebody else's MRI results, like, that's not helpful. We need yours.
Right.
Okay. The second thing is,
and the other, I'm going to add one thing, just coming from the hypnotherapist. I'm thinking myself, your subconscious mind is going to answer those questions to keep you stuck in your same limiting thinking patterns.
Yes, you get that. Oh my gosh, you're one of the few people that understand this concept.
That's its job.
Yeah. When you're working with somebody and they say, oh my gosh, I get it. I totally understand. What you're saying. It's just like when no, you don't. As long as this is like, it's more of the same. You haven't yet seen what you haven't seen yet. Okay. So anyways, the information that those tend to give you, DISC, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, that kind of thing, while it's cool information and it's exciting, you're like, oh my gosh, how did this thing know? Yes, I've had that my whole life. How does it know? And oh my gosh. And then it tells you, oh, by the way, 25% of the population is just like you. And you feel validated. And you're like, oh gosh, there's other people just like me. I'm not crazy after all. Oh my gosh. And you want to go show all your friends, see, this says you need to leave me alone, or whatever it is. Here's the deal. If you went to the doctor and the doctor said, you have this condition, but don't worry, because we have a 60% success rate treating it. That is deceptively unhelpful. That's the information. That's like saying you're a rabbit or a tree or a maven or a rock or a leader or a number blue 7 or whatever the label is they give you. What we
or a
need
Leo.
or a Leo. Yay. What we really need to know is what side of that 60% line are you? That's what we need to know.
Right.
That's what this does, because it's an assessment of the individual, not a population comparison, not a label of their personality. It's just a measurement of how their brain solves problems. And because of that, we're able to see things that their brain hasn't seen yet, which is really exciting.
That is exciting. That's really exciting. So define the difference between mindset, because we've mentioned the personality. So the difference between a mindset and personality or attitude.
So attitude is like rose-petaled glasses. I'm not saying this is wrong or that people shouldn't have a positive outlook or whatever kind of outlook really serves them ultimately. Mindset is a strategy. So personality is lost in the woods, and personality says, come on guys, keep going. We're going to get there. That's personality.
Okay.
Personality says, don't give up. Personality says, hustle, hard work, keep trying, work harder. Don't give up. Don't quit. Be positive. It's going to work out. That's personality.
And
mindset,
so many people label that as mindset. You think that a lot of people think of that as their mindset.
They do. I'm not saying they're wrong.
Okay.
I just personally draw the line in a different place.
Yep.
For me, mindset is a strategy. Mindset climbs the tree because only from there can they see something that they can't see on the ground. When you are lost in the corn maze and you don't know if you should go left or right, personality says, run faster so that you can get to the end of the row faster so you can make a new decision faster. Mindset stands on a ladder. It's a different way of solving the problem, usually from a higher vantage point.
Right.
In my opinion. It's just.
So the mindset ultimately knows how to get the result, and it takes you to the next logical step to get the result you want.
In my world, the way I use it, mindset is a way of thinking that produces a tangible result. Working harder just makes the problem worse because it masks the reason it's not working. Working smarter is possibly the most insidiously deceitful, harmful piece of advice available. It's a truism. It's a truism. Okay. It sounds like it's something, but it's not. Working. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
yeah, let's talk about this, because you're saying that being focused, on working harder, is bad for you. Ultimately, it's not going to get you what you want. It's going to kill your productivity.
The flurry of activity of working harder and trying harder just disguises the real problem. Because you're so busy getting small results that you're distracted from what caused you to need the results to start with. Working smarter is a truism. It seems like a good idea. It seems like it makes sense. Here's the problem though. You can't think of what doesn't make sense. The brain cannot think of what it cannot think of. So in trying to work smarter, you're just coming up with more of the same kind of ideas because that's all the brain can do. And this is what Einstein meant when he said you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. The thinking that caused us to develop the atom bomb is not the same kind of thinking that we need to put the genie back in the bottle.
This is incredible. You're like already blowing my mind. So I'm curious. I want to take just a step backward and ask you, and we don't know what this is yet. So I want to kind of go backward in time and figure out, how did you come up with this?
I didn't.
You didn't. Okay.
I didn't. The guy who came up with the Nobel nominated process that I use,
Yep.
he came up with it in the 50s.
Okay.
So back in the day, they were doing it with a slide rule.
Mm-hmm.
Now, thankfully, millions and millions of dollars later, we are able to digitize that process so
Mm-hmm.
that you can take it on your phone, literally.
Wow.
And I know that sounds like snake oil. I know it does. And I felt the same way when I first tried it for myself. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, you got to be kidding. This must be
Oh.
done by the same people who write the horoscope for the newspaper. No, it's not. It really is as unique as you are.
How did you discover it? How did you stumble upon this? And what was it that caused you to take this and to, get involved in this process?
Serendipity, kind of. So I was a full-time classical musician, principal viola in the South Carolina Philharmonic. And so at that time, I would travel and speak on the musical secrets of leadership, the musical secrets of productivity, the musical secrets of persuasion, or whatever. Some people don't know this, but when you are engaged in making music, whether you're singing to the radio in the car or clapping your hands to the whatever, when you're making music, you're using more different parts of your brain than any other activity.
Mm-hmm.
This is a stark contrast to athletic performance, where the better you're performing athletically, the less of your brain you're using, because your body can't afford to share glucose with the brain. That glucose needs to go to the muscle, so your brain quiets down, enters a meditative state. This is well documented with MRIs. But music is the opposite. It's this panoply of color, this fireworks of explosion. And for that matter, in your brain, you've got the two halves, and the two halves are connected with a fiber network called the corpus callosum that allows the two halves, the two different ways of thinking, to communicate with each other. In a musician, somebody that's spent a lot of their life playing music, when you take their brain with your eyes, it is plain as day that their corpus callosum, that fiber network, is thicker,
Mm-hmm.
because their brain has had to rewire itself to hold both ways of thinking at the same time without valuing one
Wow.
over the other. So at that time, I was teaching these principles and concepts of accessing different parts of your brain and what that does for your ideas or innovation or productivity or whatever. And I was at a conference, and this guy is like, "Hey man, have you ever tried this?" And he showed me this thing called the mind scan. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "No, I'll be happy to try it." So, I took it, and it mapped out my thinking patterns. There's only a handful of people in the world that are using this. I don't know why everybody isn't. It's nuts. But any which way. So I knew then that was like the missing link between the work I was doing, teaching people how to access more of their brain on demand, and the MRI study that the doctor uses.
Uh-huh.
So with that, now what happens is people see what's possible in their life. They see it in a way that they've never seen before. They see why their business isn't growing the way they would like for it to, in a way that makes sense to them, that they've never seen before. And then we use a process called mindset push-ups
Oh.
to grow new neural connections so that their brain starts to solve problems naturally by thinking at a higher level naturally. Just like a physical push-up rewires your nervous system and your body metabolizes food different, it grows muscle different. A mindset push-up rewires the way your brain solves that problem. And so your brain starts to solve from a much higher way of thinking, more efficient way of thinking. And I mean, if we have time, I'm happy to go into stories as to specifically what that looks like and the difference that makes in people's lives.
Yeah, this is so fascinating. Like I definitely I want to delve into this myself, like I definitely I think everybody could use a like it's almost like a brain tune-up in a way. Maybe,
Yeah.
a mindset tune-up, where you just after a while, the car just, doesn't work the way that it used to. And I think sometimes, I mean, don't brains kind of do the same thing? I mean, we just, we get into these loops, these thinking patterns, these habit patterns, and then it can maybe cause you to not be so productive.
That loop, that's a great example of, I'm going to use air quotes here, a way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with your way of thinking is that it serves you.
Mm-hmm.
It serves you in many ways. It gives you a sense of control and predictability of your life. It works. It produces results reliably. So it doesn't seem like it's a way of thinking. It seems like it's the truth. It seems like it's reality. But if we go back to, like, I don't know, when you're 5 years old, you're learning how to ride a bicycle. When they take off the training wheels, your crazy Aunt Jenny comes by and she goes, hey, what you need to do is go faster. Because if you go faster, it's easier to balance. And you think, I think this is why they call her crazy Aunt Jenny. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Right? If I can't balance going slow, how's that going to help? And that's where we are as adults.
That's why we call her crazy.
Because what we're doing to fix our situation seems like a good idea.
Yeah. Right.
But the breakthrough will sound like craziness, because if it made sense, you'd already be doing it.
Okay. So that's the scary part. So once you find out what you need to know from this assessment, you take the assessment, you get the results, and it says, okay, well now, you need to walk around the house backward.
Yes, exactly. This is the mindset push-up that will cause you to never have this problem in your life again. And you're going to hear it and your brain's going to go, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. But just like riding a bicycle, if instead of thinking about it, you actually experience it, because in that moment you're riding a bicycle and you feel balance, like in your chest or wherever you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment that you first felt balance, your brain went, oh my gosh, this is what she was talking about. And here's the thing, until your body has that visceral experience, no amount of explanation makes a difference. This is why, like, reading books,
there's just some things that you just can't explain.
Yeah. But after you feel it, after you feel the shift, which is one of the things the mindset push-ups do, after you feel that, no amount of explanation is needed.
Right.
Like, you're done. It's, oh my gosh.
That's
sorry.
No, it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm excited for people to experience this. I'm excited to maybe experience it myself. So these mindset push-ups, are these physical things that you do to connect and disconnect, reorient like your neural pathways in your brain? Is that kind of what is going on here? Or
there's a lot of physical things. There are some that we do by using your body, and by using your body, we reconnect parts of your brain, which is super, super weird. Kind of an aside about that way. There's a Joe Rogan podcast where he interviews Dale Earnhardt Jr. I'm not a NASCAR fan. I don't watch NASCAR. I came into that podcast with lots of stereotypical preconceptions about what NASCAR drivers are like. And that went straight out the window listening to this guy talk. Holy moly, boy, was I wrong. But anyway, he tells a story in that episode about when he finally realized that he had brain damage, that he had a concussion from too many wrecks, and his brain wasn't able to heal itself. And so he had to quit racing. And he talks about all the doctors he went to go see, and this one doctor that he finally found, and the way the doctor repaired his brain wasn't through like dark, quiet room meditation. It was through impossible puzzles for the brain. Like, spelling the alphabet backwards while standing on one foot and juggling 3 balls in one hand. Like, I mean, it's just, are you kidding me? My brain can't. And again, we mentioned this earlier in the podcast today, my brain can't access that many different functions at once. And that's the point. By pushing the brain to that limit, it's forced to rewire itself to survive. And that rewiring gives you access to a breakthrough that you cannot access any other way.
That's amazing. Wow. This is fascinating. This is really, really good stuff. So
Crazy.
say that again?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Nuts.
So how long have you been, working with people to, help them to rewire their thinking patterns?
I've been in mindset for the past 10 years. And
Okay.
before that, I was in music for about 20 years.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I mostly work with entrepreneurs, small business owners, CEOs. The reason that this work seems to gravitate the most with them is these are people that tend to value professional development. Their life might be going very well, but
Mm-hmm.
because they value that growth, they're curious what's available.
Right.
And so they're hungry to see what's possible in their mindset and what their
Yeah.
life would look like if they're thinking at a higher level. But then I also have people that are very frustrated because there's always more on their to-do list than they have time to get done. Working harder and faster doesn't clear it up. It feels like the end of the day. Amen. Hallelujah. Pass the offering plate here soon. Pass the offering plate. It'll lay hands on you. And so they are like just drowning, and it's frustrating because at the end of the year, they tell themselves, next year, I'm just going to try harder. And then at the end of that year, they're like, no, this year doesn't count because Aunt Sally was sick.
Right.
I'm going to try harder this year. And that year
Wait.
goes by. And eventually you got to say, you know what? Trying harder isn't working. Hey.
Kitty, we just got spotted an orange cat.
Yes, we have a little orange tabby, and I've got a gray tabby over there.
Oh, nice.
Speaking of which, this is super exciting for me. Oh my word, I'm so excited. These kitties are 6 months old.
They're just babies.
Yes, they're just babies. 6 months old. They have had all their shots, and tomorrow, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, they're getting.
Which means that 2 days from now, they will get to go outside for the first time ever. And I am so excited because they have no idea how exponentially better their life is going to be.
Right? Wow. Where in the world are you?
Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay. All right. So you don't have to worry about coyotes or owls or eagles.
We do have owls.
Yeah.
We do have owls. Yeah.
Here it's the coyotes for sure. I mean, we just can't let our cats outside because they will definitely get, slaughtered.
They would. Yeah.
But that is exciting for them.
No.
That is exciting for them. I'm familiar with all that because I used to volunteer and foster, kittens and stuff. Yeah. Wow. So it was all, and one of our cats is a foster failure because he, you have to wait. The reason why you have to wait that long is because you have to wait for their man parts to drop.
Yes. And how long were you told to wait?
Well, we only needed to wait till they were 2 pounds and 2 months. And then,
really?
2 pounds and 2 months. And they would get there because they were still little kittens when they go on the adoption floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they were little babies, but our Velvet, we brought him there with the, and then he got sent back to us because he wasn't ready. And so wasn't ready. And we now have a third cat, Velvet, who just turned 6 the other day. But anyway, so moving back into our topic, which I'm sure, cats probably somehow or another do help with our mindset.
They do something.
They definitely help cheer you up, but which maybe makes you motivated to work on your mindset, right?
Maybe.
So how can we?
You said something that made me think. You used the word work on our mindset.
Okay. Yes.
Work.
And you want to, so we don't want to work.
Well, I'm not saying we don't. It just caused me to think, what does that imply? Is it like going to the gym, lifting weights? Mm-hmm. I think in some cases, yes, because by solving impossible problems, it forces your brain to think in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, sometimes I'll have somebody write the metrics of their business. I see 10 clients a month, or I sell 4 houses a month, or what I ship 100 products a month, or whatever the metric is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, now add a 0 to that. And how would you get from here to tenfold?
Mm-hmm.
And so they write that plan out. Well, if I did this and then did that, and then maybe if I reallocated this and invested this and worked on this, and they're working towards that anyways. So far we haven't done anything new. This is just more of the same.
Right.
But then whatever that plan is, then the next step is, okay, yeah. But I need you to go from here to 10 times bigger in 30 days. And their brain goes, that's impossible.
Right.
That
Most people
can't
would,
be
yeah.
done. That's impossible. No. It's only impossible with the strategies that you've been coming up with.
Yeah.
And so it's hard and it hurts your head and you're sitting with it. You're like, God, there's no way. I mean, maybe if I had $1 million to spend on billboards or Facebook ads or whatever, I could do it. No. You don't have that $1 million. So that's not a solution. Keep coming up with solutions. And they sit with it. But I can't do this. But eventually, sometimes with some nudging and some guidance, eventually their brain starts to realize all the ways that it is possible, that it is completely realistic, that it's really just one phone call away, that there is somebody that they know that has the ability to make this possible, provided that person was enrolled or partnered or shared or whatever it was. So it can be done. Now they're thinking at a completely different way than they were before, a way that doesn't involve more effort, trying harder, working harder. They're just thinking at a higher level. So when I think of like working on mindset, on one hand, yes, work, because it hurts. You're like, it can't be done. It's impossible. There's no way. And you got to get past your ego and push through all that until your brain rewires itself to start thinking of totally different types of solutions. And then once you see it, now it's kind of the opposite of work. It's like easier to go 10 times bigger than it is 3 times bigger. Once you see for your situation what that strategy would look like.
That reminds me of, I'm interrupting you because it reminds me of an exercise we do in my intensive. It's a manifesting intensive, and it's kind of a ridiculous overnight exercise that I have them do, but I wonder what your take is on this. I'm being very vulnerable here. Okay.
Tell me.
They have their big manifestation, like that's beyond kind of like seems almost impossible. They have that one. And then their homework is to come up with 100 different ways. They have to write out 100 different ways that their idea could manifest. They don't all have to be, actual ways. They could be fictitious. They could be completely fictitious, but it's just to tap into the creative part of their brain. It's just to exercise them into coming up with ideas. And because most people just kind of they stop at 3 or 4 things and then they just, I guess that's just not going to work. I'm just isn't going to happen. So that's why it's 100-thing challenge.
Yes.
Most people stop. Most people do not come back with the homework completed. And I say the homework should take you 20 minutes. This is not an all-nighter. This is not about racking your brain. This is an exercise, and putting your pen on the paper and writing as fast as you can, and making your brain do some work.
Yes.
Work.
I'm so glad you did that exercise with them. I'm so glad.
Really? Oh,
and you're absolutely right. Anybody could come up with 5. That isn't a mindset push-up. By the definition is, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. To come up with 100, that's hard. You gotta grow. I'm so glad you're doing that with them. That's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I got some little validation there.
That's wonderful. I was at this, I took a seminar from this company one time, and they used to have this exercise. They don't have it anymore. The exercise was 20 no's. And you would leave at night and you had to come back the next morning with having 20 people have told you no.
Oh,
Not
wow.
I'll think about it, or let me ask, or I'm not sure, but they had to actually say no. And you had like 12 hours or whatever it was to come up. And the reason the seminar company stopped doing it is because people would show up the next morning not having slept at all. Because despite staying up all night, talking to every single person they could find, they still weren't able to get 20 people to tell them no. And
You
that's
know
kind of the point
why?
of the
Because
exercise.
their ask wasn't big enough.
Maybe so. Yeah.
If you ask a bigger question, you're going to get more no's.
Probably so. Probably so. When
Yeah.
my brother and I, we were inspired by that exercise. And so we decided to do it ourselves just for fun.
Uh-huh.
And it
Just
was,
yourselves, you went out and asked people?
yeah. We lived in different cities. And so he would, like, you'd see somebody at the mall and you'd go up and like they're on their phone and you'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Can I borrow your phone real quick? I need to text somebody real quick. And they're like on the phone, right? So they're like, hold on. I gotta go. And they would, yes. Or maybe they're sitting there eating their bag of Cheetos and you'd walk up and be like, hey, can I have the rest of your Cheetos? You know?
This is kind of like, what's my husband's favorite show? I actually met these guys too in person. There's four guys, they go out and they
do the practical jokes.
Impractical Jokers.
Impractical Jokers. Yes.
Yeah.
Great show. Love that.
I like the show. If I'm sitting there watching it, it's kind of fun. But if it's like in the background and I'm working, all you hear is these guys like laughing their full heads off, and it's so annoying. But if you're sitting there watching it, then it's great. But it's like just anyway. So, well, tell us a little bit about your book and what people could expect to get, by working with you. I'd love to, help people to find you and get their mindsets, working the right way so that they can produce those, 6, 7, 8-figure incomes.
So in the book, I did interview 7, 8, 9-figure earners. I think one guy had brought in something like 800 million. And we printed up their actual thinking patterns. We looked at how their brains were solving problems, which was a fascinating experience because there's some things that I was surprised to find out. I was surprised to find out in many ways how they are totally normal people, but also surprised to find out in many ways how they don't think like normal people. They tend to have less reasons not to do something. They're less likely to say, I shouldn't, it won't work out. What about, when they, one of the things that came up while I was interviewing them, is I would always ask, tell me about a time when something wasn't going right in your business and what was going on in your head. Like, how were you thinking about navigating those waters? And they always laugh. They're like, what do you mean a time when something wasn't? There's always something not going right. And it's this interesting thing because many people, when they think about success or failure or being an entrepreneur or whatever, when something goes wrong, their brain tends to globalize it. Well, this is because I'm a bad person. This is because I'm not good enough. This is because it's not supposed to happen for me, or I'm special, or I'm different, or whatever. For the successful, high achieving entrepreneurs, when something goes wrong in their business, they don't personalize it. They don't globalize it. It isn't a reflection of their worth. It's not a reflection of their ability. They're just like, well, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Right.
And, just kind of moving on. But if you're interested in that kind of thing, the book is on the way to the printers, but you can hop on my website right now and get the executive summary, musicalsecrets.co. You'll see a tab there for the book. If you're interested in seeing what's going on in your mindset, I've seen amazing things. For example, this is not like a high performance story, but it's very dear to my heart. Had a lady, her business, she was self-employed. She was doing multiple 6 figures. in her business, but she would come home and she had 4 little kids at home. And as you know, when you come home, like suddenly you're working at home. It's take care of this and fix that and shuttle that and prepare this and clean up that. And it's still work. It's just a different type of work. And so she was like, this is madness. There's no, I want to be present with my kids. Her kids were all little, like below the age of 8. And no, it was working. Okay. So there's a situation. And as you can imagine, the situation didn't just pop up overnight. And so as you can imagine, she had already tried everything she knew to do to communicate the situation with her spouse. And you know how well that works. But he's a great guy. He wasn't uncaring. He wasn't deaf, like, cold. He was a great guy. It just, but for whatever reason, he wasn't hearing what she was saying, and she wasn't able to communicate it despite all the things that we try to do to communicate. Like,
so she wanted more help with the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she goes through the process, gets the thinking patterns printed up. And in that process, I mean, she was in tears when she saw what she hadn't seen before, because it validated why she kept hitting that roadblock at home. And there was a way that her brain was solving that particular problem in communication. And so, and seeing what was going on, and then doing the related exercise, the mindset push-up, to solve that from a different vantage point, she went back essentially with like a new set of tools, if you will. She had the same request that she had been making this whole time, only just like the corn maze, when you stand on the ladder, you see everything in a different way. Only she saw the conversation in a different way. And that caused her spouse to hear her. And this is like the craziest thing. Again, this isn't like a super successful CEO story, but it's very meaningful to my heart. In that conversation, the same one she's been having for 7 years with no luck, it produced 10 free hours every week at home to just be present with her kids.
Wow.
To just be present, not to be doing housework anymore.
Right.
To just be present and enjoying her kids growing up. Okay, well, she took that same principle, this idea of the way her brain was solving the problem and how it was showing up in her reality. She took that back to work and produced 30 free hours at work to work on the things that really mattered, and to stop being caught up working in her business, working in operations and fulfillment and all this, stuff that we get trapped into being self-employed. And it bam, just like that, 30 free hours for her calendar to be clear, so she could focus on the creativity and creation and charting the course and being a CEO again, essentially. So yes, the mind scan does amazing things.
This is amazing.
Earning power, but this also is for personal power.
Yeah, I was literally, because when you said, worked with the communication skills with her husband, I'm just thinking, wow, the possibilities are endless here. I mean, so this could work to, generate more rapport with your, with your spouse, with your kids, it can help you to go from 6 to 7 to 8 figures. It can help you maybe with your health, weight loss and things like that, I imagine.
Oh, my word. Yeah, we could tell our stories there too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So really, the possibilities for this sound endless. So I'm excited. I'm excited for people to go and check this out on your mindsetperformance.co is your website, mindsetperformance.co/book. And then that's going to give people access to the executive summary of your new book, Thinking Patterns of Success, plus a quick start training on thinking at a higher level. And they can also, so they can go in now. How do they get onto the scan?
So if they're interested, you can go to the site and learn more about what it looks like and what the thinking patterns show up for some people. Of course, everyone, it's like a fingerprint. And if you're interested, if you want to see what yours would look like or whatever, there's a way that you can do that on the site. You can take the scan just like you would in anything else you would take, DISC or Myers-Briggs or whatever. Only this one is a scientific measurement of you, the individual. And because of that, it's your personal breakthrough map.
Well, you know what I keep
Whatever's been going on.
You know what I keep forgetting to ask you is, so once you determine, you get the scan, you figure out, what's not clicking right in your brain, you got to do these exercises, you get the exercises. How long do you need to, I mean, like, is it a lifelong thing? Is it a definitive period of time? Like when, like how long does a person do those exercises for?
So the exercises are usually very short. Sometimes it takes some preparation just to set the pieces out in the mind so that its level of awareness is capable of processing a challenge like that. Usually, wherever somebody's starting with their breakthrough map, and once they see the path to where they want to go, there's a couple core areas that the mind needs some sharper skills to navigate that maze. One area is communication and relationships. It has nothing to do with how you say it. It has nothing to do with what you're saying. It has nothing to do with when you say it or your tone of voice or your body language. It has everything to do with the order that you present the information.
Yeah.
Like we're talking subject verb. This is crazy, university studied. But there's a suite of communication tools that unlock that. If you need somebody to say yes, there's a way to present it so that emotionally they want to say yes. This isn't manipulative persuasion. It's just a matter of vitamins for the brain. We call these things emotional bank deposits because that's what builds and unlocks high value relationships. So that's one area, the emotional skills. Another area is the productivity, profitability skills. Anytime you don't have enough time, you don't have enough results, it's usually because you're trying to do it. And so this is a different way of thinking. So then instead of doing everything, you start to think like a CEO who causes things to happen. And there's ways that we cause. So there's a set of skills for that. And then there's another set of skills internally. And this is where we get into like limiting beliefs and head trash and cycles and
head trash,
self-sabotage and all that stuff. Well, there's a suite of tools. And I know you in hypnosis are very familiar with some of these tools already. But there is a suite of tools that create change in a very different way than a lot of other strategies like affirmations in the mirror. Or positive thinking, or it doesn't work. It just makes the situation worse. Well, thankfully, there's a set of tools that actually does work. So usually I tell people it takes them about 3 months to master the individual building blocks. And after that, they are effectively pulled out of the weeds and set back on the beaten path. And it's like a new lease on life. You feel like you can run again. It's a wonderful experience.
Oh, I love that. This sounds just amazing. I was going to say this sounds like this would be really good for salespeople as well. People who are in any kind of like sales, because if you're learning a new way of communicating that evokes that, emotional connection with somebody. I mean, that's where people make their buying decision at the emotional level before they make an at the end. The emotional level sends it to the intellect to make you think that you're making a logical decision, but you're really not. It's an emotion. So very good. This is really good. So I can only imagine a lot of people are going to come to your website and check this out. And this podcast, we're recording it on September 22nd, but it'll probably be airing sometime, I would say, in the month of late October. So by that point, I would say go check out the Mindset Performance book. And you're about how long before you launch your book?
Oh, yeah, give me a month. We'll have it all physical in your hands.
So it should be, so we're recording it now, but by the time it airs, the book should actually be there. So very good. Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today on the Power of Your Mind podcast. It's been my privilege to get to know more about you and talk about this fascinating topic with our audience. Thank you, guest, for being a guest here, or a listener on the Power of Your Mind podcast. Yeah, they're not the
Yes.
guests, they're the listeners. I'm getting all
Yeah.
flummoxed now because I'm so excited about your information.
It's awesome.
It
Yes.
is awesome information. So, well, thank you so much.
Yes. 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 Thanks for having me.